I think I was in the first or second grade at Precious Blood School in East Buffalo. This would have been around 1952 or 53, when just before Easter of that year, we were taken down to the school hall and shown the silent movie, King of Kings. It was made by Cecil B. DeMille in 1927, and they probably showed it to us because they didn't have a movie projector with sound. I don't remember much about the first or second grade, let alone anything about the film, except for one scene which I remember as vividly as if I had seen it yesterday. Well, in fact, I did see it yesterday because I wanted to see if my memory was correct, and it was. I looked up DeMille's King of Kings on YouTube, and there it was, 5 minutes into the second of 3 parts, the gospel story we just heard, the story of the attempted stoning of the woman caught in adultery. I had no idea in second grade what adultery was. I think I thought it was disrespecting adults in your life, and I probably included it in my first confession. Anyway, the scene I remember so vividly is Jesus writing in the sand. He knelt down and wrote with his finger 3 words in what I now know are Hebrew letters. And then the camera dissolved the words into English. First thief, then adulterer, and with each word, more and more of the crowd departed. Finally, there's only one man left ready to hurl a stone at the woman, and he says, "God, I thank thee that I am not as other men are." Jesus then writes the word murderer, and the man drops his rock and runs away. Almost 70 years later, and I still remember the words dissolving into English in that scene. I can't remember where I put my car keys this morning, but I remember that scene. Now, much has been written about exactly what Jesus was writing in the sand. The 7 deadly sins, as shown by DeMille, is just one proposal. Others have suggested that Jesus was following the custom of a Roman judge who wrote the verdict down before it was announced. Still others say Jesus wrote down, "Where is the man?" since adultery is not a sin that can be committed by one person alone. The great scripture scholar Father Raymond Brown, as well as John Pilch, an authority on the culture of Jesus' time, both suggest that perhaps Jesus was, this is the phrase that they both use, just doodling in the sand. Perhaps, Brown suggests, Jesus was buying time to get the crowd to settle down, while also buying time to decide what he would do. They both say that doodling on the ground was a common custom among Mediterranean peasants when they were distraught. And they conclude that if the content of what Jesus was writing was important, it would have been included in the narrative. Now, there's a strong tradition that this event that we've just heard took place during Holy Week, during the last week of Jesus' life. After his triumphal entry into Jerusalem, Jesus would teach each day in the crowded temple area. And it is here that the scribes and Pharisees set a trap for him. Before a large audience, they drag in the adulterous woman and demand Jesus pass sentence upon her. Her partner is nowhere to be seen, which indicates that she's simply a pawn in the game they're playing with Jesus. There's no question of her guilt, but if Jesus says she should be stoned, he's disregarding the Roman law that has appropriated capital punishment to itself. And if he says she should be set free, he's disregarding the Mosaic law, which calls for her execution. Jesus' opponents have carefully and cleverly devised a complex problem that would trap him either one way or another. Jesus' classic response neither denies her sin nor gives anyone the right to execute her. He says, "Let the one among you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her." He turns the test of his authority as a teacher into a test of their integrity as religious leaders. And they all slinked away as compassion and mercy win out. Left alone with the woman, Jesus forgives her and bids her to sin no more. St. Augustine, the great sinner who became the great saint and personally understood this experience, said it so well. He said, "Relicti sunt duo miseria et misericordia, which means there were only two left, misery and mercy. The delicate balance of Jesus in not condoning the sin and his mercy in forgiving the sinner is one of the great gospel lessons. We see here what has been proclaimed as the theme of all of our scripture readings today. The Lord has done great things for us. We are filled with joy. In our first reading, Isaiah recalls for the Israelites about to be released from their exile the former things God has done, setting their ancestors free from slavery in Egypt. But he tells them not to focus on the past, but to behold what God is doing for them here and now. God has forgiven them and will provide safe passage for them through the desert back to their homeland. St. Paul was a man who knew quite a bit about new beginnings. He focused his life on overly zealously keeping the law until his encounter with Christ on the road to Damascus. He writes to the Philippians in our second reading that he rates all that he has held as important before as loss. The word we hear is rubbish, but the Greek word actually means dung. As he continues in his pursuit, he is confident that he will achieve his goal not because of his efforts to be faithful, but because Christ has taken possession of him. In all our readings, something new is happening, something God is bringing about. And our responsorial psalm captures the threefold reaction to God's grace: amazement, laughter, and joy. The Lord has done great things for us. We are filled with joy. We could conclude here, but I want to make two more observations. First, the woman in the gospel was about to be stoned, but nothing is said about her partner. This reveals an ancient prejudice against women that still endures in so many situations in our world today. Did you see the Oscar ceremony last Sunday? I'm not going to talk about the slap, no, but about the comment of the comedian Amy Schumer made at the beginning of the program. She said that this was the first time the award show was being broadcast in 3 years. She also remarked it was the first time the producers hired 3 women to host the show. She then asked, why would they do that? And answered, because it's cheaper to hire 3 women than 1 man. Funny? Not really. It's tragically true that in so many situations, women continue to be treated unfairly in our world today. And let's be honest, it happens even in the church. Whatever happened to women deacons who did ministry in the early church? Isn't Mary Magdalene called the apostle to the apostles because Jesus Christ appeared to her first after his resurrection? And what about women cardinals? Up until a century ago, lay people could be cardinals. Someone must have seen that loophole and closed it, because now you have to be ordained to become a cardinal. But that could be changed with the stroke of a papal pen. Imagine a conclave to elect a new pope with half of the cardinals being women. The last thing I want to say is this. Something I found in a reflection of our gospel by, yes, a woman, Sister Barbara Reed. Going back to our opening image of Jesus writing in the dust, she points out that what Jesus writes is not as important as Jesus using his finger to write. She recalls that God, after speaking with Moses on Mount Sinai, gave him, quote, 2 tablets of the covenant, tablets of stone, written with the finger of God. Jesus' action in writing with his finger replicates God's actions in giving the law. The law, which was never intended as an instrument of condemnation, but as a guide to a godly way of life. And how do we use our fingers? To point out others' faults? To accuse others of their sins? To draw a line in the sand and limit others' freedoms? Or do we use our fingers to point to the good others have done? To draw attention to a future filled with hope and promise? To focus on all the good the Lord has done, for which we should rejoice and be glad? Will we be the crowd that slinks away embarrassed by our own sinfulness, or a people filled with laughter, amazement, and joy for all the good the Lord continues to do for us, and hopefully through us, for the world?